Go ahead and get started. We'll go to Osh for the first question. Washer was just saying how he misses you, John.
Yeah. Look at that
Oh,
beard, man. You
I
look
bet he
like
does.
Scotty Hazelton.
Well, that's high praise. Aside from the obvious position switch, Todd, anything different about Miles this year?
I would say he's a lot more focused. The position change, I think has a lot to do with it just because of the amount of stuff that's put on his plate. And, the will position doesn't have a lot of communication things. That's our Mike linebacker, which Joe does really well at that. So I just think he's able to go out there, read his keys, and play fast. And that's when Miles plays the best.
Thanks, buddy.
You bet.
Thanks, Osh. Let's go over to John Reed and then to Gene.
How you doing, Coach?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I would just like to get what your assessment was of Chason and Devon Hamilton. Them making their debut as rookies last week. What do you thought about their play?
I thought early on they were a little out of whack, and I think that's just something where we haven't had the preseason games and all that kind of stuff for them to kind of realize that the NFL is a little bit faster than the college game and that kind of stuff. But as the game grew on, I thought we seen some real good things. I thought D Ham was very stout at the point, used his hands well, which was really good to see. And Chason was a little bit crazy with his eyes at time and stuff, but you see the flashes of what we've seen off the college tape of the athleticism and the ability to be a playmaker. And I think those two are only going to get better as we keep going and the more games they get underneath their belt.
Thank you, Coach.
Yeah, thank you, John.
Thanks, John. Let's go over to Gene and then Hayes.
Hey, Todd. Hey, I wanted to ask you about the snap count last week for Taven Bryan. He had far more snaps than most of your defensive linemen. Is this a result of you guys just feeling you need his strength, you need his physicality in there, so that even though he doesn't put up numbers, that he's disrupting enough to help others make plays?
Yeah, and Taven's numbers will be up just because he plays not only first and second down, but he's in on third down. So that's obviously where his numbers can get a little bit high at times. But the biggest thing with him, he's a different style of three technique than a lot of people are used to. He's a big, strong, disruptive player. You might not see all the flash plays and that kind of stuff that you see out of some other people, but he's exactly what we're looking for as a solid run defender. He's strong. He doesn't get moved around in there, and that's a strength to him. And the way he played, he was solid. He got a little out of whack, and he was talking to us about it, guessing a little bit too much. But I think once again, after we get this first game out of the way, I think we're going to see a lot of improvement out of a lot of our players.
As a follow-up, when he was at Florida, it took him a while to get production going there. It wasn't until really his last year there where
Right.
you started to see his potential. And as we know at the NFL, a position like that can take some time as well.
Yep.
Do you feel like he will eventually, if he hasn't already in your mind, live up to being a late first round draft pick, even though it's a position where it's tough to put up stats?
Right. I think he has. Like once again, he just does it in a different way. When you really look at him, he's a solid, stout player. And like I say, you might not get a bunch of stats out of it, but he's really helping the guys around him. I think that time off with a little bit of a knee injury hindered him. He was playing extremely well prior to that knee, and now he's just coming back from it. So we're going to see him improve as the season goes on. I think we've seen that last year. As the season went on and on, he got better and better each week, and I think we're going to see the same thing once he gets back into the groove of getting a lot of snaps.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Gene. Let's go over to Hayes and then Mark Long.
Todd, what'd you learn about C.J. Henderson against the Colts?
He's a physical player. When we did him coming out, we knew he was a willing tackler. But you've seen some plays where he's willing to come up, and hit some people. That third down stop where he came up and knifed the guy short of the goal line. You don't see a lot of corners really wanting to throw their body around like CJ did on Sunday. So that was obviously, excuse me, really good to see about how physical he is in the run game and how he can tackle. But the stuff that really popped off the tape is how he's willing to transition, mirror, and play the ball when it's in the air. You never see the young man panic, and that's a credit to him, and the mindset and the confidence he has in his ability.
How has he been this week as he's gotten all this national praise for his production?
He's far from satisfied. I know he said in his mind he didn't play as well as he could have, which is exactly what we want to hear as a coaching staff. He's been pushing himself all week, just like it's any other week. I don't think he's the one that's going to quote an old timer, be allergic to the big meal. I think it's going to be a situation where he's going to continue to improve, and he's got a lot of drive in him.
Awesome. Thank you.
You bet.
Thanks, Hayes. Let's go over to Mark.
Who's what's who's that from?
What?
Be allergic to the big meal.
Well, we won't go into that.
Hey, listen, Derrick Henry, you guys had a pretty good success on him in the first game last year. Second game, not so much. Was that a little bit of your defense having been worn down by injuries? And have you figured out a little bit of a better maybe plan to attack that kid?
Yeah, the first game I thought we played pretty well. I'm thinking in the first half of last year's second game we played pretty well. I think it was 7-0 at the half, and then the wheels kind of fell off. But I think that's a little bit of credit, obviously, to Tennessee. They're a big physical team. They wear you down. I think we have the numbers that we need to go in there and rotate and stay fresh for 60 minutes. The biggest challenge, that we're talking about our guys is we have to win the physical battle. I think Coach Vrabel does a great job of developing his team that they are physically going to pound you for 60 minutes. And that's got to be the mindset we have, that we have to come back and counter that and battle them for a 60 minutes. Once again, hey, let's keep this thing close and let's find a way to win it late.
Thanks, Mark. Let's do 3 final questions for Washer. Let's go Jordan, Demetrius, and then finish with Shipley.
Hey, Coach. Obviously, we all know about Derrick Henry. What are the biggest challenges facing you from the Tennessee offense outside of Derrick Henry this week?
I think the quarterback really thrives off his play action game. And they do a lot of things to try to get the guys at the second level to suck up at the line of scrimmage and take some shots over the top or, right over basically the outside part of the tackles and everything like that. So the play action game, Tannehill does an extremely good job with the play fake. The offensive line does. So the play action game is really predicated off of obviously the run game, but that's the thing that really concerns you. He's a high percentage type player. He makes really good decisions. So the play action game is a big concern.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Thanks, Jordan. Let's go over to Demetrius.
Hey, Coach. I just wanted to know how big of a loss is it to lose Jared for maybe 3 weeks? And then can you just touch on his potential replacements, Watson, Wingard, obviously, and then Thomas?
Yeah, the biggest thing you miss is he's been the quarterback back there for the last couple of years. He does a really nice job of communicating. If something's jacked up, he gets us in the right stuff. He can quarterback those guys in the back end. We're very fortunate to have, I call him Kid Rock, but Dewey. He is just as smart, communicates really well. We've seen it early on, so we feel real comfortable with Dewey back there. And if, God forbid that something happens, then we still got B. Watt and we got Daniel Thomas, the rookie. So, but right now it'll be Kid Rock. And, we feel very, very comfortable with him in there.
Thanks, Demetrius. Let's go over to John Shipley. And we had one addition. We're going to have Gary finish this off. So go ahead, Shipley.
Okay, there we go. Finally.
Yep.
Yeah, Coach, can you just talk about maybe the challenge that the Tennessee receivers bring, especially considering how different they are than the receivers you guys played this past Sunday?
Yeah, obviously they're big men. They can run. They're a physical group. Everybody talks about, they're 2 big dogs they have, but they also have, a really good slot and with Humphreys. So they have 3 guys that can really obviously hurt you in the pass game, and then they got a vertical threat So they're a very talented group. They're big, they're strong, and they're physical. And, we got to do everything we can with these play actions to try to, get our hands and disrupt some routes. Last week they were, little scat faster guys that we seen. And then this week's the bigger type receiver. So, it'll be a good challenge. They're totally different from what we've seen last week. And it's going to be a good challenge for our corners to see how they match up with those guys. They're some of the creams of the crops in the league, and we're going to find out exactly where we're at. It's early on in the year, but it's a good measuring stick to see where we're at right now.
Thanks, Coach.
Yep.
Thank you, John. Let's finish up with Gary.
Yeah, Todd, at what point in training camp did you start noticing Josh Jones make the kind of plays that caused you guys to elevate him in the depth chart?
Early on, he was down at the third spot when we started training camp. And as soon as he got in there, he started communicating, real loud. The rest of the team was like, who in the heck is this guy? And, he really jumped off the tape about how he studies and his ability to make plays. And, you've seen that on Sunday. I think he was in on 11 some tackles. He communicated really well. And, once that happened, we started getting him with the first unit, rotating, obviously, him and Ronnie. And, we've seen a guy that obviously can play. And we like his speed, his athleticism. And he just slowly moved up the depth chart. And we feel really comfortable with playing him. So it was really from the start, he moved up quickly. And there was a heck of a battle between those two early on in camp.
Thanks, Coach.
You bet. Thanks.
Thanks, Smitter, and thanks, Coach Wash. We'll
Yep.
see you next week. We'll be sending out the pre-practice injury report shortly, and then post-practice around 1 o'clock, we'll have Josh Jones followed by Josh Allen.
All right. See you, Mark.